Hey guys, welcome to the Drone Horizon podcast. I'm Alex, and today I'm joined by Daryl Walker. Daryl, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Daryl Walker, and I'm an adventure and automotive photographer from the northeast of England.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for being with us today. You've sent over 3 pictures, as we always ask you to. We'll start off with the one that's labelled Borgang Cliff. So, do you want to talk us through this shot? It's a fantastic shot.
Yeah, so this is in the Faroe Islands, if anyone didn't know. It's on Kalsoy Island, which is quite a popular island that everyone goes to get the little shot of the lighthouse. And this is actually like away from the lighthouse. It's quite a steep hike though. It's pretty much vertical to get at that point. There's no path either, so you just kind of make your way to the top. Um, we went there. This was August 2019. Me and my friend James went there, and it was we're hoping for like nice moody conditions, but it was bright blue skies and not what you want. But it was like that all week, so we just went with just open minds, and I wasn't expecting to get anything good, and this shot kind of just came out of nowhere. And as you can see James on the cliff there, and it's about 550 meters into the ocean from there. So he's not, although it does look like he's right on the edge. He's not actually on the edge. It's just the perspective that the drone's got. But it's such a cool spot, and you've got all the little. If you can see on the image, you've got all the little fulmars flying around as well. So they add a cool little perspective to the image as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not a. It's. I first had thought. Sorry, I thought at first that it was Iceland because it looks kind of sort of that kind of landscape. I mean, I've never seen a shot like this, and as you say, it looks like your friend is standing right on the edge. And when I saw the sheer drop down the side, I did think it's a little bit of a danger shot, but obviously it's definitely worth it. I mean, it helps to give a perspective to the mountain as well as the birds do. To sort of how sheer that drop is, and it's a really nice picture because you've managed to get the mountains in the back exposed as well. So you've got like a really nice contrast on one side between the dark of the cliff and the green of the land, and then in the back as well, you've sort of managed to fill that background as well. Was this multiple pictures that you've stitched together, or is this just sort of one shot?
Yeah, this was a 3-shot panel. I think I did it automatically in the Mavic 2, and yeah, it came out quite good. The sun's kind of like up on the top right of the image, as you can see with the shadows. So, like I say, I wasn't expecting anything half decent to come out of this shot. But while you're out there, you might as well just have a go and just see what you can come back with. And it's crazy what you can come back in the edits and actually pull out of an image.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with some shots as well, it's all about trial and error. I mean, whilst you were there and you've got this fantastic rock, and this, it may not be as sort of dark and moody as you probably intended, but with the sunlight, it still makes for a great picture. And there seems to be a sort of reoccurring thing that I've found as I've been doing this podcast is that a lot of the shots that people have sent in as some of their favourites are ones that they maybe didn't intend to take. So they were ones that they sort of in the situation they were like, oh well, we'll just give it a go. We're not expecting anything good out of it, and it ends up being better than maybe where you were in heading, where you were intending to head sort of in the first place. So it's sometimes the best pictures can come out of nowhere.
Yeah, definitely. And as I said, it was like it was bright blue sky. So when we turned up at Castle Island, which I think we got there about 10 o'clock in the day, we're both just kind of deflated because we thought we're never going to get any good images here. But I had seen this shot before, so I knew that there was actually an image to take there, albeit slightly. Everyone takes it further, like on top of the cliff, with the cliff going towards a mountain. So I knew there's something there. I just had to try and like get the drone into a position to actually take a decent shot, and I knew that would be to work with in Lightroom.
Definitely. So how steep is the hike on the other side of that mountain? Because obviously from the bit that we can see, it looks pretty sheer on both sides. So is it sort of the same on the other side of where your friend's standing?
Yeah, so if you look at the peak, you kind of like drive through the mountain in a tunnel. So you kind of come out at the bottom of the peak. It's probably about 200 meters maybe above sea level up there. And then you hike up from the village to a little plateau, which is about I would say maybe 350 meters. And then hiking up there, it's just another 200 meters. It doesn't take too long because it's, as I say, it's pretty much vertical. And as we were coming up on the top there was some younger um, families of birds that actually were swooping to attack with, because there's a lot of like nests on the cliffs and stuff. So we just had to be careful not to sort of intrude on their territory. And yeah, and that mountain in the distance, I think that's 750 meters high at the peak. So it's quite a cool little leading line from the cliffs up and up to the peak.
Yeah, definitely. How did you find the birds were with your drone around? Did you find that the birds were swooping for your drone, or did they tend to sort of steer clear?
Normally, like you normally find that they do swoop with the drone, but in this instance, they weren't really too fussed about it. They were just happily flying around the cliffs. And I kind of didn't keep the drone stationary, so um, that kind of helped, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So, sort of moving on to your second shot, which is down as Crater's Top. Do you want to talk about that one for us?
Yeah, so this was also 2019. It was a couple of weeks before the Faroe Island shot. I went to Iceland chasing the midnight sun, and I kind of left all the plan to one of my friends. He's quite a nerd in terms of like planning locations and stuff, and he loves hunting on Google Maps. So he found this spot. So I just went there with no expectations of what to get, and it became quite a popular shot in 2019. There's quite a lot of Instagrammers getting this shot, but I never seen anyone do a top down. So I thought I'd try and do a top down, but it was actually quite difficult to get because the craters are so huge. So what I ended up doing was a series of sort of like multiple exposures, just flying along in a rectangle as you like. So I think this was about maybe 12 panel top down images stitched together. Um, and you can kind of, if you look on the image as well, on the bottom left, there's like a little road and there's a car. You can kind of get a sense of scale. I say it's a car, it's just like a tiny dot. But you get a kind of sense of scale of those little craters. And out there, it's quite barren. There's not really that much color, but the little red of the rocks kind of pops out. And then it's just like a black, sort of like a desolate landscape out there. But it's quite cool. It's in the middle of the highlands of Iceland, so you don't get really many people going there. Like the popular hotspots on the south coast. So it was quite cool to go somewhere new in Iceland and come away with that crazy image.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you got some. I mean, you mentioned the red. It really does make the image pop because otherwise, I think when we see sort of the traditional shots of Iceland, they're very sort of dark and moody, and it's very sort of greys and blacks, that kind of thing. So it is nice to see sort of that red popping through. You mentioned about the road as well. When you sent the image over, I saw the van or the car down in the bottom corner, and it does look a hell of a long way up that drone. I mean, now that obviously you say it was sort of multiple panoramas stitched together, that makes sense. But obviously, to get it looks like a helicopter shot from that kind of height.
Yeah. I can't remember how high it actually was, but as I say, it's like in the middle of nowhere, so you're not intending to like crash into things and stuff. But yeah, I kind of like all my friends were getting like the traditional shot just straight on with the two creators looking out to the landscape, and I showed them this top down. They were like mind blown. And this was, I think we went to this crater twice. We went to Landmannalauga, which is further on from this road, which is a cool like lava field. You will have seen that one as well. It's probably it's a very colourful like blues, oranges, reds landscape with like a little river leading through it. So we went there first time, but it was really early in the morning. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, so it was still kind of like, although the sun was out, being midnight sun, it was still very blue. So the images are very like dark and a blue hour kind of images. So I went to Landmannalauga and then came back and we reshot this place again. So I'm glad that I actually like took the time to come back and realize that the images first time didn't work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, you were saying that this was probably very different shots to the ones that your friends were getting at the time. I mean, that's one of the great things about drones is that you have that ability to change the perspective of a picture entirely. I mean, you think with one drone, whilst it's in the air, you can get your traditional shots and then fly up and get a top-down shot, and they can look like two completely different places. So, the versatility of them is just fantastic. I mean, how did you find flying in Iceland? Because I was in Norway a couple of years back, and I found that the magnetic interference messed around with the drone a little bit. Was it tend to be sort of okay in Iceland?
To be honest, my Mavic 2 Pro, everywhere I go, every time I turn it on, I need to do calibration. It always has magnetic interference. Even if I just go like to the coast next to mine and then drive 2 hours to the Lake District, it's always magnetic interference. So I just accept that every time I turn my drone on. I have to do a couple of circles and with my drone just to get it calibrated. But um, I can't say what anyone. I don't think anyone else had to calibrate theirs. Maybe a couple of times, but mine was definitely there's. I don't know. There must be something weird going on with it. It needs to be calibrated all the time.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned about the calibration. I don't think there's any dignified way of doing the calibration dance, is there? You just sort of have to suck it up and get on with it.
Yeah, yeah. Every time I go out of like people that don't have drones and the seas go around in circles, they're like, "What are you doing?" It's just quite funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that sort of brings us nicely onto your last image, which is St Mary's. I mean, it looks very, well, it looks amazing. Do you want to talk us through that one?
Yeah, so that's kind of it's only about 10 minutes away in the car. That one, St Mary's Lighthouse. It used to be when I first started out. It used to be my favorite place to go because, like I say, it's only 10 minutes away. So I would just go there no matter if the sunrise looked good or if it looked rubbish. Um, and the island is about 100 or so meters offshore. So when the high tide's in, it looks quite cool like this. With it just looks isolated. Um, so it's not really a long flight for your drone, and I still haven't got the perfect conditions, but this is near enough being perfect with the tide, washing over the rocks and stuff. I really want a one with like a really wild sea with some decent waves, but then you get into the dangers of having to fly in like high winds and stuff. So it's a bit of a battle. But I'm pretty happy with this one, how it came out. I got a lot of comments on Instagram saying, "Why is the cars on the island?" Which was quite funny. But obviously people don't understand that there's a causeway going the island as well. But yeah, it's a pretty cool little lighthouse.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to mention about that. I didn't know whether it had a causeway going up to it, but obviously now that you say that, it makes sense. It's sort of similar to St Michael's Mount down in Cornwall.
Yeah, pretty much similar. Yeah, the lighthouse is out of commission now, but you can go and visit and go up to the top where the light used to be, and there's still people in the cottages as well. And it's quite a so the little rock at the back of the lighthouse, which is kind of secluded on the image. That's kind of a hotspot for seals as well. So you get during the early months and the late months, I think there's seals breeding on there, which there will be at the minute. So you can go around the back of the keeper's cottage, and there's like a little shelter where you can watch the seals from there. So it's quite a cool little place to photograph on the land and the air.
Definitely. I'm going to assume this shot was a panorama because you've managed to get a really cool effect with the waves. It almost looks like they're curving in the bottom right hand of the picture. Um, was this sort of like another sort of stitched together panorama?
Yeah, this was a 3-shot panel, and actually, I didn't. Now that you've pointed it out, I can see it, but I didn't. I didn't even notice that when I was editing it. Yeah, but yeah, it's a 3-shot panel. This was a manual panel because I don't know why, but when you do a auto panel, like the crop's like 21:9, so sometimes it's not wide enough. So sometimes I find myself doing a manual 3-shot panel just to get that little bit extra width on the image.
Yeah, I mean, doing that's obviously created a really nice gradient in the water. So you've got like really dark and moody at the bottom, and then obviously goes up to really bright where the sun's sort of hitting the horizon.
Yeah, and this was a sunset image, so the sun's coming from like the bottom left. So yeah, there was there was a nice clear sky as well, so that kind of helped, like you say, add the gradient, and the lower sun kind of brought the mood in at the bottom.
Cool. So do you want to just sort of run us through what kind of kit you take with you when you go out to do shots? Like, you can talk about your drone and if you take a DSLR as well, then obviously because that all sort of contributes to your style, I guess.
Yeah, so my main drone is the DJI Mavic 2 Pro. I've had that since pretty much it first came out. And I had the DJI Mavic Pro before that as well. So I'd say I've been flying about, I don't know, I guess 4 years now, I think. And I think I've got about 600 hours or something like that in me, in the DJI app. And I don't tend to use filters unless it's really bright and sunny, and I have to. I always intend on taking them out with us, but I always forget them. And I've just got a Polar Pro circular polarizer and the ND filters, ND4, 16 and 32. Never really used the 32. I've never had any problems with that to use that much, reduce the exposure that much. And I have 3 batteries as well, so that could give us technically up to like an hour of constant flying, which is sometimes needed. Sometimes when you're not when you haven't got a specific shot in mind and you just want to go out and fly and capture cool videos and photos, then sometimes you need those extra batteries. Other than that, nothing really much else to the drone kit. And then my main camera system is all a Sony. So it's based on the Sony A7 III. And then I've got sort of like 7200, 85, 50, 35, 16 to 35, and the 24. And I'm hoping this year I can get the 100 to 400 as well, which will add a bit more reach to me images as well. Yeah, that's about it. And then I've obviously got I've got tripods and stuff like that, a Peak Design tripod, which is pretty good. I never really used to lump a tripod around. In the early days I did, but I kind of got sick of them. So I've invested in the Peak Design one this year, last year, which was, it can go down like 0.7 kilograms, which is super light. So there's no excuse to not take it now. And yeah, that's about it in terms of photography kit.
So when you go out shooting, how do you choose between whether you're going to go droning, I suppose you could call it, or with your DSLR, or do you tend to take sort of both with you and just depend on the situation?
Yeah, I tend to take both with us. I'm kind of one of these people that ends up taking everything they've got with them, and then not using half of it. And it's always that, but if it's nice and moody, then you can kind of slow down and take your time and get your shots on your camera as well as your drone. But sometimes when it's really sunny, then you cannot really. You've got to kind of sacrifice one or the other, or sometimes I go out with my girlfriend as well, so she's also taking pictures. So sometimes if she's going to take pictures, then I'll throw the drone in the air and spend a bit more time on getting it right. Like I say, it's always like a battle of what is the best shot and what's going to look good.
Yeah.
Sorry, the dog's crying.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, as we've said, is sort of trial and error, and it's just up to the conditions. I mean, you mentioned you take everything with you. I think that is important, and I think the one time that you don't take something with you will be the one time you need it. So I'm always very, very much under the take as much as you can carry with you, because you don't want to miss out on an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And sometimes you know that it's going to be a drone shot or it's going to be a camera shot, so you can kind of go one or the other. There's the dog. Yeah, so you kind of go one or the other. So but sometimes I just go out, just I know that the spot's only going to be a drone shot, so I just go out and do that. Yeah.
So when you sort of shoot over here in the UK, I mean, do you tend to sort of plan your shots ahead of time, or is it a case of, right, well, I know there's going to be good conditions, I'll just go to this spot and have a fly around, or is it,
Yeah, I've got quite a few maps that I've made now, which have got the spots on that I want to hit. And when I go on a trip, not necessarily Iceland, because every time I've been to Iceland, it's always been just someone else has planned it and I've just went along. But particularly the Faroe Islands, I've planned out every spot and I've researched it to death to understand whether it's going to be the best shot's going to be a camera shot or a drone shot. So I guess I spend a lot of time on Google Maps or Instagram, just trying to see what would look best. And sometimes if it's a new place that I've never been to, I'm always in two minds whether to research it or whether just go with fresh eyes and just see what takes my fancy, and I might get something different to what other people have got. Because I think sometimes when you look on Instagram and all these other things, and you see that that's the shot, then you tend to just go and take that shot, and sometimes you don't explore further and see what else there can be.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, you've mentioned that you've been flying for sort of around 4 years now. How did you first get into photography, and how did that lead into sort of you picking up a drone for the first time?
Yeah, so as I say, with places like St Mary's right next to the door, I'd never like been interested in photography. I'd always had like my iPhone, which was taking pictures of my cars and stuff like that. And then I guess I kind of just wanted better, image quality out of me pictures. So I invested in a little DSLR, which I've still got at the minute. It's me Canon 100D. And I just take that out if I'm not planning on like wanting to capture anything exciting, or just capturing moments. And that I had that camera for about 2 years, and that served us quite well, taking seascapes. I became quite obsessed with seascapes and going out every morning capturing something, whether there was a banging sunrise or not. I still went out. Um, and then I kind of sort of got interested in more like mountains, and it started doing a bit more hiking. And that's where I met most of the guys and girls that I hang around with on Instagram, through going to like various meets, Instagram meets, which a bit sad that they don't happen anymore, because they were quite cool meeting new people. And you gotta like hang out and talk about photography, and going on trips with people as well. That's kind of probably where I learned a bit more about how to take a picture, and going with people that are better than you, in terms of like photography skills, is quite cool, because you get to understand different photos that you may not have seen, and why are they taking photos over there when you're still 10 minutes taking photos over this bit. And then I guess I kind of delved into weddings as well. So I've been doing weddings for a couple of years now, on the side of actually having a 9 to 5 as well. So everything that goes on, in my photography stuff, is always after work, which can be quite, soul draining at the end of the week, when you've done all your 9 to 5, and then you've still got to plan Instagram stuff and answer clients and take, go on client shoots and stuff like that. So, but I enjoy it, so I'm not really complaining.
Is your end goal to sort of leave your 9 to 5 behind and go into photography full time, or are you planning to sort of just keep it as a hobby and earn your money elsewhere?
I definitely want to make it a full-time thing. There's a few things that I've got to kind of work out before that, behind the scenes, like business kind of stuff. And my plan was last year to, get in a good few weddings, but with the dreaded word that that didn't happen. But at the minute, I'm kind of happy that I've got a 9 to 5, and I can still have the enjoyment of the photography and make a bit of money with photography. Last year kind of taught us that like having everything in one place isn't necessarily a good idea. So I quite like the security that I've got at the minute of having a 9 to 5 job, and then maybe making a few £100 every now and then on photography. But as you say, definitely the end goal is to make it a full-time thing.
Have you managed to, obviously with your current situation, have you managed to pick up many paid clients whilst doing it as a side thing?
Yeah. Last year was obviously a bit of a weird year, but I still managed to do a good handful of client shoots, and a couple of weddings. So I'm hoping that this year, with the vaccine, everything's going to be picking back up again, and clients and brands are going to want to reopen the social aspect of the marketing.
And obviously, with having your experiences in doing sort of adventure and lifestyle photography, is there any tips that you can offer for people that are just starting out and maybe want to get their foot in the door with commercial work and droning as a whole?
Yeah. I guess sort of the photography, the camera side of things, getting new clients, you kind of need a portfolio to start out with, or a decent Instagram, because I think it's kind of where clients kind of come to first to see what kind of photographer you are. They get a quick idea of like your portfolio. But I'd say that probably the best way, if you're starting out and you want to try and do a bit more commercial work, is to try and build a portfolio of work that you want to shoot. So let's say you want to take pictures of adventure kind of things, then simply just go on adventures and go with cool people, go with your friends, capture the moments that are happening as well as the big hero shots. You can build a nice portfolio that way. Or like say if you wanted to be an automotive photographer, if you've got people that have got nice cars, just ask them to, if we can go out and take pictures of cars. And try and avoid doing free work in terms of like receiving a payment, if you like, from the clients, like I say, a free jacket or a pair of shoes, because at the end of the day they're winning, and all you're getting is a pair of shoes. And you've got to know your true worth. And so the best way is to try and build that portfolio first before clients come to approach you, and then you'll have a better understanding of what they want, what you can deliver, and you probably understand a bit more that your time in taking photos and editing photos is worth a lot more than just a free pair of shoes.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, when people sort of start out with commercial work and that kind of thing, I can imagine it's quite difficult to know how much to charge and that kind of thing, because it's a very grey area that people don't always tend to talk about, because it's people don't tend to like talking about money. So how sort of when you started out, how did you find it was best to price? Was it sort of per time, or was it for X number of photos, if you don't mind going into that?
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I did free work at the start. I ended up, taking pictures just for like a watch, or, like a bag as well. I've done pictures for bags. But it got to a certain point where I was like, look, I'm doing these pictures. It's taken us like say 10 hours in total, and all I'm getting is like I say, a free product. So from there, I kind of, in the first couple of client things after that, I kind of just went with what money they were offering, and I didn't like challenge the fee that they were offering. And then I kind of got to a point where I just thought, this is what I'm getting paid at my current job per hour. This is what I might want to get paid per hour taking photos. And that's kind of how I started, negotiating and kind of figuring out how long it might take to shoot a product image, edit it, and then, any little bits in between discussing things with clients. So I guess in the first instance, you've got to understand how much you're willing to work for. You could either do a day rate or an hourly rate. So it's pretty much the same as as any other job. You've got to understand how much time it's going to take before you can like say yes, and then, because sometimes it might take a lot longer than you imagine, and all you've asked for is £200, and then it might end up being £5 an hour at the end of the day. So yeah, just kind of work out what you're comfortable with working for.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to chat with us today. It's been really great going through your pictures and obviously hearing your experience and those kind of things. How can people find you on Instagram and any of the other socials?
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's been a pleasure. All my socials are Daryl S Walker. I primarily post on Instagram, so that's my main social platform. But I've also got Behance, Twitter, and a Facebook page, and a YouTube. But I haven't really done much on YouTube other than like little drone videos now and then. So yeah, that's how you can get us, Daryl S Walker.
Cool. Perfect. Well, as I say, thank you for being with us, and all the best for the future.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Cool. Perfect.